Hello everyone. Thank you so much for taking your evening to come and work together to support good decisions on Ottawa's official plan. I'm sorry that I can't be with you in person, but I wish you every success in your work. The climate crisis should be the central frame for decisions, all decisions in the official plan. Land use is Ontario's oil sands. Our decisions on land use are the largest driver of our emissions, and they lock us into, if they're done badly, a high fossil fuel future that we're not going to be able to survive. So it's very, very important. It's the most important single decision that Council can make, is to keep the urban boundary, not expand, not give up any more agricultural land, any more wetlands, any more woodlands, all of which we need to grow food and to absorb water and to provide some resilience in the climate crisis that's coming. There's lots of room within the existing urban boundary to accommodate a much greater population. We've got great examples of how to make wonderful urban spaces that accommodate many more people. Ottawa's got some good examples. Edmonton has wonderful examples now being built in Blatchford. The nation's capital should be setting a good example. And there is just no good reason anymore for expanding urban sprawl into agricultural land. Many existing urban areas are actually stagnant or losing population. And that means not enough people to support local stores, not enough people to support libraries and other kinds of services. And it means underusing the existing infrastructure that taxpayers have already paid for. Lots of people don't want to just see a high-rise tower stuck up in the middle, but that isn't what good intensification looks like. The big demand that people have for housing is for that missing middle. Most people want homes where they don't have to spend hours a day commuting, where they can have neighbors and be on good terms with their neighbors, where they can be within walking distance, cycling distance of everything that they need. When we build more low-density subdivisions, we lock families into very high-cost futures where they have to have one or two cars because there's nothing within walking distance and everybody has to drive. And what that means, what we've created as a result of that, is lives where too many hours every day, every week are eaten up in traffic. That doesn't make anybody's life any better. It's much better to have a home where there are jobs, where there are services, where there is infrastructure. It's much cheaper for the city. It provides more vibrancy for those wanting local services. And there's more room for positive interaction with your neighbors when you're not either isolated at home or spending hours a day commuting. Well, the first thing is it has to be kept rural. The most important thing is not to put subdivisions on it. But there are great opportunities. Very few cities have the advantage that Ottawa has of having a rural area within the urban boundary. We know that one of the great opportunities for dealing with the climate crisis is to improve our food system, what we eat, how we grow it, and how much of it we throw away. Cities that have urban areas and rural areas can do a lot to support local farmers, to become more resilient, to put more organic matter back into the soil, to eat local food in the city, and both then to minimize food waste and then put what has to be discarded back into the land to feed the soil again. There are tremendous opportunities also for the city to build its own resilience. We know that wetlands, woodlands, and to some extent agricultural areas provides major protection against flooding for urban areas, because when the rain falls, and it falls more intensely now than it used to, it needs to have somewhere to go. A 2-hectare wetland can protect 70 hectares around it from flooding, which is increasingly expensive. We don't have a good system today. If landowners, farmers keep part of their land in wetland, they bear the whole cost. And everyone downstream who benefits just gets a free ride. We tend not even to thank the farmers who protect those lands. We need to find a way to recognize them, to thank them, to support them, to compensate them, because they're providing major services to all of those who live downstream. Plus they're keeping the air cleaner, plus they're keeping the water cleaner, plus they are, I hope, keeping places for wild creatures to live. We know that the climate crisis is going to make the weather hotter and wackier, and on average wetter, but in more intense bursts. And so we need to keep places for the water to go. Otherwise, we're going to be making ourselves completely vulnerable. You look at Houston, one of the main reasons they had so catastrophic damage, climate crisis brought them the extra heavy rains. But because they had paved their rural areas, they were left completely vulnerable to the floods, causing long-lasting disasters that many people are still struggling to recover from. Ottawa should not do that. Well, we do need to be focusing on cool roofs, cool streets. Extreme heat is becoming more common and more extreme, and it's extremely debilitating from a health point of view. So valuing trees for sure is part of it. Part of that is better salt management, because salt kills a lot of trees. Part of that is protecting the soil from compaction. But part of it is to have people recognize the importance of trees. So Melbourne, Australia did a great program where every individual street tree got an email address. And people could send emails to their local tree. And in fact, what they found was that some people would send love letters to their tree. Other people would send messages, because obviously the trees aren't actually reading the messages, it's city staff reading the messages, but that when a tree was in trouble, or it needed pruning, or there had been some damage to the roots, or some protection was needed around the tree, people could email in. They could also look up that tree and find out what kind of tree it is, how old it was. So it's not just an undifferentiated piece of green furniture, it's a living thing, and people really enjoyed having a relationship with their tree. So we could try that. We could have email addresses for every city tree. Well, I don't know the numerical answer, but one thing that we do know is that access to green space, and not just a flat square of lawn, is really important for physical health, for mental health, for children's ability to play outside, for seniors to be outside making connection with other people. And so it's particularly important in areas where the population is already more disadvantaged, to create green areas, and to create green areas that are good for living in, not just a square of green grass. So paying attention to areas that are more disadvantaged, giving them higher priority in creating green areas in association with the people around them, and giving them a role in looking after it. That can make a huge difference. Also creating places, again, particularly in disadvantaged areas, where people can grow food. Gives them, helps deal with food insecurity, helps build a personal connection with the outdoors in a way that's good for health, and creates more interaction in the center of the city with where our food comes from. A lot of urban people think food grows in a plastic bag. It's better to know where it comes from. Well, thank you. I wish you every success with Council. You have a copy of my presentation to the Ontario Professional Planners Institute on why land use is Ontario's oil sands and how critically important it is to stop sprawl. Please pass it on to your municipal councillor and let me know what happens.